Something that I found really interesting when learning about this, especially because I was raised Catholic, is that the original Catholic Church's text, the Canon Episcopi, said that witchcraft and witches weren't real, and they believed that the devil was real, the devil could possess the minds of people, and that women were more susceptible to that possession, but that any woman who believed that she was practicing witchcraft or that she was a witchcraft was suffering from delusions and was insane. In fact, in 1080, Pope Gregory VII wrote a letter to the King of Denmark at the time, which basically forbid him from executing suspected witches. It wasn't until hundreds of years later that actually Thomas Aquinas published a work that basically refuted the Canon Episcopi's stance, saying that people could collude with the devil, that it was possible for people to collaborate with the devil and to possess magical abilities to be used for evil. But despite that, it still wasn't actually the Catholic Church that really started the brunt of the witch trials. Not to say that they didn't play a role or that they don't have any responsibility, but what really kicked it off was the Protestant Reformation. A bunch of people broke off from the Catholic Church and started to question the authority of the Church and of the Pope, and that group of people then later became Protestants. And during the time when this was all happening, there was a lot of religious superiority, like, we have to show you that we are better than you, that we are holier than you, which caused them to have really strict ideals for how the morals of their people, and anybody who challenged those morals or was immoral was tortured, was punished in some way, shape, or form. The witch trials actually started, mostly the first witch trials were in Germany, and it started because they were experiencing a lot of famine. There was some climate issues that caused harm to crops, and so there was all of these kind of ecological and health disasters that they had no reasonable explanation for, so they decided to blame it on the women in their communities and called them witches and said that they were doing it on purpose. And the other piece of how all this spread so quickly was because this is when printing started. So after the first witch trial in Germany, they printed a news article about it, about how these women were witches and how they had caused this famine and plague and all these horrible things and how they were executed. And that published work then was spread widespread for everybody to read about it, which then started this insane kind of mass psychosis craze that everybody was like, oh my gosh, all this. So anybody else that was experiencing famine or plagues or anything else, they immediately started to think, oh, it must be witches.